that is slowly covering the world. So as Elizabeth puts up the slide, it's titled Hunger Crisis in Sudan. Look at the slideshow. Yeah. So, also me ask you this, Bible sabi, the war he come up lo namel US, sorry, Russia and Ukraine. It happened just before or at the beginning of 2022. The current conflict that is happening between Gaza and Israel happened just the start of October 2023 and then escalated on from there. This politically motivated wars or kind of conflict, political conflicts. And a similar one is happening in Sudan, which planting of Damasawe. I was reminded while looking at the case study of the starvation crisis in Sudan. And just last week we had a UN General Assembly meeting in New York. And one of the core highlights of what actually happened in that meeting was from the 160 plus countries that gathered, and then each one was invited to go up and give their speeches. Prime Minister Netanyahu of Israel was called upon to go up and give his speech. And you know what happened? Half to probably 3/4 of the quorum left the meeting. You saw why? That was a silent protest to Israel to stop the genocide in Gaza. So if you go look at the news tasol, if you go harem tasol, what is actually happening on the ground? People are suffering. And these people who are suffering are not the core frontline rebels. These are actual women and children. The vulnerable people who has nothing to do with what is actually happening. These are the people suffering. So the world came together and UN decided to take action. And they did. They showed their frustrations. They walked out when the Prime Minister was trying to give his speech. Same with Ukraine. All the NATO allied countries are now backing Ukraine with weapons and all that to ensure that they counterattack the war waged by Russia. Now, this is the crisis of Sudan. Has anyone spoken about it? Ika hari sa lilit, totoo la UN come up to someone standing up, asking for support, asking or calling or condemning the violence that is happening? No matter. It's untold of. I don't know why. They might be a third world country or only black, only part of Europe, probably, we don't know. But the reality is there. Sudan currently has a total of 50 million plus people. So when they started having the civil crisis in their country, the main city where the fighting broke out was home to about 10 million people, exactly population of Papua New Guinea and Rwanda city. And all these people were displaced, only run away, only losing place, only kiram, one time, one them cargo, or na lo karim lo donkey, or one mode of transport, really motorbike or really or car, only carry, only walk about. Displaced, only go out. Only no sabi, only have only go. Only just go. They wanted to get out of the city. And as say, are being displaced. 10 million people, 70 to 80% of these people being displaced are women and children. So I will narrate the story here, and we will focus on the stories of three individuals, Tubla Lili Mangi, the one adult who are being affected by this particular crisis. So I will have my colleagues Cynthia, Rhonda, and Russell to assist me with the narration of this one, affected people. So on the April 15, 2023, after years of turmoil, fighting broke out in Sudan's capital of Khartoum, and the crisis quickly escalated, leading to what is currently the largest displacement of people in the world. 10 million Sudanese people are internally displaced. 2 million have fled the country. So in Sudan, banking and healthcare systems have collapsed, leading to widespread hunger. This is the worst hunger crisis that has ever been recorded in Sudan, and the situation is dire. World Vision's national director in Sudan, John McConney, who was on the ground working with UNICEF, had reported over 730,000 children under 5 years are now at risk of dying. Funding for humanitarian assistance is urgently needed to save these lives. So it was needed in 2023. Since 2023, I haven't actually had anything being brought up with national, international forums. Fleeing to Chad. Chad is a neighboring country to Sudan. That was the only exit, hope of exiting the country and running away from the crisis in their own country. So since April 2023, more than 560,000 people have crossed into Chad, many traversing the sandy corridor between El Geneina in Sudan and Odre, a town on the border of Chad. El Geneina means garden in Arabic, but with so many residents fleeing, some say the garden town has now become a ghost town. Long lines of people move together toward the border, some with children on their backs, some riding on donkeys, and a few traveling by car. There are reports that they were stopped at multiple checkpoints along the way. Every person who made the journey saw things they never wanted to see. So these are the stories of three people from El Geina whose lives were turned upside down when fighting surged in Sudan in 2023. Odum, if we can show a picture of Odum. Odum is a 5-year-old boy. We have Rashid. Rashid is an 8-year-old girl. And Abdul Rashid, a 37-year-old parent. Adum is too hungry to play. Rashid saw her parents' dead bodies. Abdul Rashid, a father of 4, lost everything he owned. Adum.
Okay, Adam and his family who abandoned their house because of the war. The journey to church was terrifying. Odom couldn't stop crying. I asked him to stop crying, says Hotum. Hotum is Odom's mother. When he cried, I was afraid. Their fears were well founded. Khartoum did not want to attract attention. People enjoyed beating as they made their escape. Along the way, the mother and her three children, Odum, Mariam, Istri, and Yahi, 10 years old, passed the bodies of people killed in the fighting. I have seen 4 dead bodies. They were soldiers, Khartoum said. She was worried about her son. I covered his head on my back so he couldn't see. In the confusion of the journey, Khartoum, Odum, and Mariam were separated from the elder sister, Yahia. Khartoum, a widow who had already lost 2 children before the crisis, thought she'd lost another child.
Rachidna's family, the ones who survived, ran for their lives. We were sitting at home, says Rachidna's aunt, Halima, sitting close to her sister Gamara. Armed militants knocked. They said, "Get out." They shouted, beating us. Gamara was beaten with an electric cable. We started running away, she says. We ran barefoot. We walked to Ade, our foot swelling. They took Rachida with them. Everyone in Rachida's immediate family had been killed. She saw the bodies of her father and mother, says her aunt Halima. Rachidna's older brothers were taking care of their sick grandfather when they heard the gunfire. They took him to the mosque where they thought they'd be safe. But instead, Halima says, militants took him out of the mosque and shot him. Then they killed the boys. The family's trip from their home in El Ganena to Ada was nightmarish. When they came to a gully, they stopped, thirsty. We saw bodies in the water, but we had to drink it anyway, says Rachida.
Dal Rashid. When the war started, I was at the hospital, says Dal Rashid. It was supposed to be a time of joy. He was waiting for his twins to be born. When the bullets started flying, Abdul Rashid, his wife, and their 4 children, including the newborn twins, fled. 11 of his neighbors had already been killed. Abdul Rashid's family's belongings were taken. I had 2 cars, he says. They stole one and wrecked the other. They took all that we had. The family traveled in the darkness. Only at night could escape, he says. In the day, you couldn't. I saw many dead on the street. Many people were injured. They destroyed the hospitals.
The bridge at Adre. Odum, Rachida, and Abdul Rashid each crossed with their families from Sudan into Chad. Marking the border at Adre is a short bridge that was left unfinished when construction funds ran out. And so refugees wait under the concrete bridge that feels like bridge to nowhere. Under the bridge, 2 staff from Church Refugee Agency record family information from the newcomers on an iPad and transfer the data to UNHCR, the United Nations Refugee Agency. The UNHCR then issues the refugees registration card so that they can stay in Chad. A voice over a bullhorn allows for people to be quiet, but the noise prevails. People sit on the sand, weary, waiting for their turns. Picking one's way through the crowd under the bridge, it is hard not to step on people. They were everywhere, hot, sweaty, and afraid. The spontaneous settlement. After registering under the bridge at Odre, Odum, Rachida, and Abdul Rashid and their families each walked nearly 4 miles to the spontaneous settlement. a sprawling, sandy mess of refugees that has grown to 175,000 people. At the spontaneous settlement, there is little to do but wait. Families wait here often for months, sometimes more than a year, to be resettled to a camp in Chad. There is not enough room in the existing camps to accommodate new people coming in or running away from Sudan. In the meantime, each family builds a small home of sorts, a shelter constructed simply using what they can find, usually branches and clothing. The families rely on food from the World Food Program. The UNHCR has provided bathrooms and water, but there are always long lines for both.
Okay, Odum once entered at the spontaneous settlement. Odum's mother created a small hut for sticks for her family. 10 days later, they experienced a miracle. Her missing daughter Yahia was found alive. After getting lost during the escape, she made it to Adra. I took and I held her, Koltum said. I cried. The family has lost so much. Koltum's husband died 3 years ago. Now she worried about Adum, who weighs only 26 pounds, about half the weight of some healthy 5 years old. His ribs showed through his thin chest, and he has an infection in his tooth or jaw, the pain contributing to his weight loss. He was fed animals, she says, as Odum lays in her lap, too hungry to move.
For Rachida area family arrived at Hada in June 2023 as the rainy season began. We slept in a school compound, says her aunt Alima. We collected pieces of wood and covered them with our clothes. It was a difficult time. We were totally dependent, Alima says. We had no food. We just sat under the shelter in the rain until it stopped.
Abdul Rashid arrived in a concerned about his newborn twins. They were so sick. We went to the hospital, he says. We met the doctors there. They looked after my children and gave them the medicine. After a week, because of the twins' ill health, the family was transferred to Akanga camp.
Now at the Fakara camp and the challenges in Chad. Fakara camp is about 18 miles from the border crossing at Adre. It's home to a large population of Sudanese refugees, most from the Darfur in Western Sudan. The first camp opened on January 17, 2004, when violence in Darfur began, ultimately taking the lives of at least 200,000 people and driving more than 2 million from their homes. Since then, there has been two extensions to the Fakara camp as refugees flood in, most recently in the fall of 2023. Living conditions there are harsh, with food and water hard to come by. Though serving as a haven for refuge for the Sudanese, Chad has also many challenges. The country itself already has one of the highest levels of hunger in the world. Food prices have soared, making it difficult for Jordanian families to buy nutritious food. Refugees live on the land that would have been otherwise used by local families for farming.
Back at the spontaneous settlement in Adre, Odum's mother has food for only 4 days. A liter of oil, salt, a cup of okra, millet, and some flour. She has watched people in camp put desperate measures for food. They find an ant hill to dig up and pull out the millet the ants have stored there. Koltum is stuck in Adra because Odum is sick. I can't go to bed. She worries to her son, who used to fly kites with the other boys in his big brown eyes vacant. World Vision staff check on the family, helping Koltum with medical costs. She has no idea when they will be transferred to a camp like Pakat or Mechi.
Rachida and her family were transferred to Mechi camp after 4 miserable months in Ada. The journey to Mechi, which is just 25 miles to Ada, is a 90-minute bumpy drive on sand. In Eastern Chad, there is very little infrastructure and few roads. Nearly 150,000 people live in the camp, which opened in August 2023. Some of them, like Rachida and her family, live in shelters provided by donors through World Vision's gift catalog, which features a variety of life-changing gifts for people in need. On a sweltering day in Machi, more than 100 degrees, it is much cooler inside the house than outside. I got a very good house, says Gamara. Before I was sleeping under a shelter. We suffered a lot. We are very grateful. We are living in the wilderness. Rashida was delighted when she saw the shelter where she now lives with her aunt Gamara. Aunt Elima and the rest of the family live nearby. I was very happy. I can protect myself from the wind and rain, she says. Her hands protect her too. I love them, she